or how do we leverage big data in an efficient way to make decisions. So anytime we talk about big data, there's 3 V's that are being talked about. There's a velocity, variety, and volume. Velocity is, when we talk about velocity, we're talking about the data incoming into your system, or the rate at which data is changing, right? And there's a need that you need to analyze this data as is flowing into the system. And you need to make sure once you have analyzed the data can also be consumed by your decision-making systems in right time. Then accuracy, this is where the powerful analytic techniques are being used. There are new systems, new technologies now that allow you to crunch structured, unstructured data and implement very sophisticated complex logics. The point here is that to shoot an accuracy, we're looking at processing or looking at the details of the data, right? Both aspects are fine, speed and accuracy, but then there's third aspect that we have to keep in mind. The cost has to be efficient, because you don't want to spend too much money to save low amount of money. So really what it means is, if you want to make efficient decisions, it is a function of 3 different aspects. It's a function of accuracy, speed, and cost. So now let's lay out these 3 different aspects onto our data strategy. How do we come up with a big data strategy to meet all these requirements? In order to lay a data strategy, you need to start looking at data in different states. There are generally 3 states of the data. There's a data in motion. Data in motion means the data has left the data source and is making its way to the data store, where it's going to live and where it will be used. And during this transit period, the data may live in some memory buckets or some temporary, even persistent storages. That's the data in motion. The data in use is when data has made it to its source of truth data stores. Source of truth data store is the data store that you always rely to seek the truth, where the data is going to be in consistent state. Then third state is, which is out of the context of this data strategy, is data in rest. That's when the data has been backed up to the offline storage, like tape backups and so forth. So now let's start going bottoms up. When data is in use state, that's where you can shoot for accuracy. That's where the data volumes are really high. And I would call that offline environment. This is where you would run complex logics on your data. So here, another aspect is that you want to keep the data always in an append mode. You never want to overwrite your data. The key principle that you want to use is that the data that you have acquired, store it as it is. Because we don't understand the data at very first sight. It takes time before we build an understanding on our data. For example, if you were collecting clickstream data, clickstream is where you're capturing the URLs. You might look at where this URL was clicked from, which URL this user is clicking from. Maybe those are the only 2 data points that are of interest to you today. And if we were to transform this data and only store those 2 values and throw away the original data, then there are other parameters in the clickstream data, but you just threw them away, right? So from that perspective, don't transform and throw away the original data. Keep the original data. Bubbling up one more layer is data in motion. Here, you want to keep very small amounts of data. Like we discussed, data in motion is data in transit. So the age of data can vary depending on your system. It can go from anywhere from seconds to hours. But don't try to keep months worth of data in the state. This is where you're going to shoot for speed. But speed and cost go hand in hand. The systems that are optimized for speed, the complexity grows for those systems and the cost goes through the roof. So this is our data strategy. Again, takeaway point is data in use is the state where you want to shoot for accuracy. Data in motion is where you want to shoot for speed. Now we're going to talk about competition strategies.